A few years back, I had a crazy series of dreams. For just under 2 weeks, I was getting them a few times a day. Vivid, like hallucinations. The most startling one happened to me in the middle of the day while I was wide awake. You'll see that one in Chapter 1. Now, I fully admit, odds are this was some kind of stress-related mental breakdown. I don't know. And I sure don't expect anyone to believe any of this. That said, if you were to ask me my opinion, I'd tell you that I saw visions. A glimpse of something big. And I believe it. I knew I had to share what I'd seen, but I didn't know how. I am a manual laborer. I make my living hanging off of a ladder. I never written a book, never made music or sound design, never tried voice acting or any of the other skills I'd need to pull it off. And with my business taking an abrupt nosedive after the prices of materials tripled, I had to do it all by myself on a budget of $0 with nothing but my desktop computer, a mic, and whatever free software I could find. I had a couple things going for me. I had some rudimentary drawing skills. I used to play Dungeons & Dragons as a kid, which is jumping jacks for your imagination. And my lovely daughter was kind enough to contribute some singing, and my amazing wife put up with my obsession and my guitar practice. Several years later, after unimaginable amounts of work, I'm finally done, and I hope I was equal to the task. At the time of writing this, no one's really read past a rough draft of Chapter 2, and I'm a little nervous. If you were to ask me my opinion, I'd tell you that this is the story that needs to be told right now. And I made it for people starving for something original that doesn't insult your values or preach a bunch of nonsense politics at you. So with that, I humbly present to you The Breath of Life, the first installment in my Aquarian Cycle series. It's an audio journey meant to take you on a guided tour through these dreams I had. Now, obviously, you're free to just read the transcript if you prefer, but I don't know how well it's going to read. This is a story that was made to be listened to, and mostly the novel is for following along. But what kind of story is it exactly? Well, easiest way to describe it is it's a narrated flying dream told from the perspective of the dreamer, Thomas, who I suppose you could say is the eyeballs you'll be figuratively looking through. As for the kind of story, well, it's an adventure tale with classic adventure-y type shenanigans that, if you're like me, you've sorely missed in our modern selection of entertainment. Though fair warning, even though it's not sadistic like the crap they put out these days, it's not for the faint of heart. It's full of armed lunatics doing uncivilized things, end-of-the-world plots, diabolical villains, and spiders so big they make me want to cry like a little girl. Heroics, courage, and a cast of outlandish characters whose names you probably won't be able to pronounce. But don't worry, I got it. Most important, though, romance. Kinda. So sit back, put on some headphones, and relax in whichever way you relax best as I take you on a journey deep into the primordial mists of Aratta. Welcome, dear reader, to the Aquarian Cycle. Matt. Chapter 1. Mists of Aratta. The prison house is the world of sight. The light of the fire is the sun. And you will not misapprehend me if you interpret the journey upward to be the ascent of the soul into the intellectual world. Socrates on the Allegory of the Cave by Plato. Part 1. Somewhere in Suburbia. I must have been 6 or 7 when I had my first lucid dream. I used to see this twilight garden with lamps hanging there. I remember you couldn't see far, it was always misty. But I had a sense of family and home. And when I'd wake up, the memories would sift away like sand through my fingers. Just an echo of homesickness. Now, these days I don't dream anymore unless it's a nightmare. I don't even think if I can help it. My name's Thomas, some guy that empties garbage cans for a living. And this story isn't about me, so I'll be brief when I say that I know what loss is. The kind you don't just get over. My head's been a war zone for a long time. And when I go to sleep at night, I'm usually hoping I don't dream. But not today. A buddy down at the depot turned me on to these CIA tapes you can listen to that are supposed to join your brain hemispheres together. Give you more control over your mind so you can relax and have a lucid dream. I wasn't real interested at first, but the more I thought about it, I've been running from my dreams for a long time. Because when you're lucid, you can see anything you want. It doesn't have to be nightmares. He was going on about a bunch of other crap too, but I don't buy it. I know lucid dreams are real. I used to do them all the time when I was young. But as for this astral traveling and reality-bending gobbledygook, well, let's just say I'm a skeptic. First, you're an idiot if you trust anything the CIA says. I'm sorry, but at this point, if you haven't figured that out, well, there's probably no help for you. Second, I learned a long time ago, following an incident with some pink elephants, that when you're lucid dreaming, you just see whatever you expect to see. I was never leaving my body or seeing aliens and strange worlds. I was just dreaming. The magic died. A kinda shitty enlightenment, I guess. Still, the idea of spending a little more time with her again, even if I know it's not real, is hard to pass up. So I decided to give it a try. And here I am. It's about 3 in the afternoon on one of those rare sunny days you hardly ever see around here. I'm off work, lying around in bed with a pair of headphones on, trying to block out the world and focus on some old guy's droning voice, weaving binaural beats into my skull under the sound of the surf. Then comes these big spikes of sound, my whole body flinching like there was a rock flying at my head. This is what they call the hypnagogic state, that wobbly ground outside the hold of Wonderland. You're going to want to pay attention to that word because it comes up a lot in this story. Chances are you felt the same thing. It happens in that twilight between waking and sleeping. Just about everyone gets a glimpse of it when they're on the cusp of falling asleep. Those in the know learn to ride it out and stay awake as the body and brain shut down. When it starts, it feels like a tornado in your veins. But if you can keep calm, the storm passes into a tranquility that's hard to describe. It's just absolute peace. You're still seeing the physical world, but you're not in it. Your eyes are actually closed, and the imagery's coming from memory. And it doesn't help that the rational part of your brain is already asleep by the time you get here. And after a few more minutes of listening to that CIA black magic, that's where I am. Now I'm drifting up towards the ceiling fan, asleep, but I don't know it. Sounds like a bunch of wind-up toys or clocks ticking together, but it's not coming from the fan. There's something up in the attic. Never mind, I don't actually have an attic. That's a detail I won't piece together until later. Dreams are weird like that. Now the ceiling starts to look like smoke or mist, and I pass right through it. The attic's stuffy and dark. There's all these glittering stars that look like eyes in the shadows. I'm starting to get a little nervous, hoping this isn't about to become a nightmare. The ticking's getting louder, more insistent. And then silence. In the dark, I hear a soft voice whispering.
If thou should be lost, what ocean of time should come between us?
No jealous waves will hinder me, O breath of life. I shall always come to thee.
Then I snap awake into another dream, inside some kind of brass enclosure, like the interior of a giant Moroccan lamp. The skin's full of star and circle-shaped holes, and there's just black outside of it. In the middle, there's this clockwork star floating in a big cloud of colored crystal balls, like a cluttered solar system. Everything here has a subtle translucency to it, like some kind of hologram. There's what look like little floating brass hands drifting about and arranging the crystal orbs around the star. And the star's got this golden metal screen for skin, but you can see a clockwork machine inside with gears and camshafts turning. Nothing modern, no wires or circuit boards. Suddenly it spins around and looks right at me with an enormous, burning golden eyeball sunk into the center. A thicket of rods and probes are sticking up into it as it flicks with subtle motions like it's studying me. And then there's this blast of deep noise like a ship's horn. And I'm flooded in hypnagogic sensations. There's flashes of sight and sound. Now I'm looking at alien figures with pale skin and long, thin limbs. They're walking down the streets of some kind of technological paradise. It feels familiar. Like these are memories. They're not my memories. There's some kind of worldwide celebration going on. I see a group of these beautiful uniformed aliens standing up on a stage. There's crowds of people cheering for them. They've been picked for an important mission. Something that only happens once in a long time. Some kind of cycle. But then the scene wilts from the edges, like a burning photograph, blackening into ashes. Now I hear this jarring burst of sound like water pouring into an enclosed metal tube. There's an alien woman standing in here, with thin arms down at her sides. She's one of them. Pale rubbery skin, almost blue. Thin angular features. She's not human, but humanoid. Her wide almond eyes are shut, but she's alive and trying to stay calm as the water begins to rise up her legs. She's frustrated. She shouldn't be scared. There's no reason to be scared. But I can see her trembling and feel a prickle of fear running down my spine. Fear that doesn't belong to me. Quick, shallow breaths. A small whimper. And then her voice echoes through me again.
And how shall I breathe with thee gone?
Just as the woman gulps in one last mouthful of air, she closes her eyes tight, and then she's under the water. The imagery is gone, and there's a flash of movement, as one of the crystal balls from that orbiting cloud around the clockwork star goes shooting past me, and out of the lamp, through a black star-shaped hole. The vision starts to fade, and then that mechanical eyeball booms out its foghorn again. And this time I hear my name in it. I'm trying to run away, but the sound envelops me, rumbling around me and whisking me toward that same hole. I see a hint of motion out there, like gargantuan clockwork spinning in the blackness. But then I see a gleam of red eyes, hidden out in the dark. Some kind of thing whipping around in the blackness, like a snake or worm made out of ashes and smoke. And then I'm through the hole and tumbling out into the abyss. Chapter 1, Part 2, The Purple Mist. By the time I finished tumbling out into the purple, that giant brass lamp is gone. Eyes are darting all around, but there's no sign of that creepy snake thing. There's nothing out here but purple fog everywhere I look. But I can hear thunder off in the distance. I glance down. More fog. But no feet. I've got no body. I'm still feeling a little panicky after that snake, but I think my head's starting to clear up. I got that weird feeling you get when you realize you're dreaming inside of a dream. Weird though, I can't really move or do anything. It was cooler when I was a kid. More to look at than this weird mist. Where the hell am I? This place is creepy. The way the mist shifts between reds, greens, and blues. There's a slow pulse to it like it's breathing. I don't see any kind of light source. It's more like the mist just gives off a dim twilight purple glow. Then something smacks into me with a jolt, and the mist pulls into a blur. Like something just grabbed hold of me and started dragging me after it. I'm looking around, but I don't see anything. Then I get a hypnagogic spike, like I'm about to fall asleep. A weird feeling of good vibes.
If you had a computer so smart...
The hell, there's some guy's voice in my head. I'm about to say something, or at least scream in terror at the looming thunderstorm I'm being dragged into the middle of. But I've got no voice.
That you could ask it anything and get a true answer.
Ugh, there it goes again. I'm listening, hoping the voice will talk again when I notice the rumble of the ocean somewhere ahead. I'll admit I'm getting curious. The horizon's getting darker and the mists thin out until I come out over the top of an oily-looking, storm-tossed ocean. Quite a rager of a storm. There's even a huge waterspout off in the distance. I can see it trailing through silver spray.
What would you ask, Thomas?
The storm fades into the background as I zip over the ocean like a bullet. Weird, the waters are as calm as a lake now. Now I'm wondering what I'd ask this hypothetical supercomputer, when the strange voice in my head comes again.
But remember, you only get one.
There's a shadow bleeding into the horizon. A rocky coastline full of black sand and sparkling shells. An eerie droning sound on the air, too. Like the stridulations of grasshoppers, but it's deep and slow. Almost mournful. Mulling the question over as we pass over an ominous and steamy-looking jungle, pressed up to the beach. And now I'm rising up green slopes and mountain spurs. Headed up some steep crags. Oh, they must be huge. I just keep going up and up. As the sheer rock faces shoot by, I find myself gravitating toward that one from the Hitchhiker's Guide. Great book. Yeah, I'd ask that computer what the answer to life, the universe, and everything was. A few more miles of climbing, and then I level out into some kind of winding pass, like the shadowy bottom of a ravine with cascades of white water tumbling in all around me.
That's silly, Tom. It's already been answered. 42. Everyone knows that.
Oh, fair enough. I got a million questions. One of them is, what the hell is down in those steamy, unpleasant-looking jungles? I can hear all kinds of particularly non-Earth-like sounds, hooting and whistling. Little flashes of light here and there. Shadows darting around and the thick mists hovering over the canopy.
You sure? You only get to ask one.
No, that wouldn't be my question. I see some brighter mist ahead, and then we bend a sharp curve in the pass, and this big blot of greenish light comes into view. Still a ways off. I'm headed toward it, but I got no idea what it could be. The sun, maybe? Doesn't look like it. What would I ask it? That's a tough question when you think about it. The mists are getting warmer and greener. Soft, warm light starting to paint the crags, and the narrow ravine opens out into a wider valley. More waterfalls passing by, and a fast river flowing down the middle, out toward a mountain pass where this light hovers there like a greenish sunset. Well, how about I ask it... Suddenly, this big blast of noise scares the crap out of me. It's echoing around the valley. Sounds like a booming trumpet, but gravelly and deep, carrying on almost like whale song. Oh, something's rearing up down there, off the side of the river. All that damn mist, I can't see shit. Some kind of big gold monster. Oh, that thing's bigger than a house. And it looks like it's in a panic, starting to crash through the trees, blowing that big horn. It's on all fours, or maybe 6. It's front heavy, maybe some big horns. Yeah, it's hard to tell. Oh, damn, there's another one. 2, 3, 6 altogether now, breaking trails through the jungle, headed for the pass. Something must have spooked these things. There's a whole herd of them, I guess. But they aren't the only things going bananas down there. I see all kinds of little flashes of motion. The gleam of metal, glint of jewels. The hell are they?
Is that your question?
Huh? No. I'm still thinking about it. Anyway, the biggest one's blasting that trumpet again. But now there's a whole tapestry of horrible sounds coming out of the jungle. The canopy's swaying and things are moving. It's a stampede, I think. All headed off toward that greenish-yellow sunset, just like me. But I'm going way faster, and pretty quick I leave whatever is going on there behind. The pass is just flying toward me, and then I spot some architecture carved into one of the rock faces. Cliff dwellings like the natives down in Arizona used to make. A few dots of lamplight poking out, too. Ah, hobbits. No, not really, but there's something down there, and whoever it is, they don't seem too happy about the swarm of God knows what that's headed their way. There's a rocky outcropping up ahead with a bunch of wood piled up on it, and a couple skinny-looking pasty aliens crawling all over it. And then I blow past. I'm whipping around to try to get a good look, but my eyes suck and I'm just going too damn fast. Best I get is to watch the figures in the valley cliffs fall behind in the mist with a tumble of white water. But then an orange blot flares up behind. Well, they got their beacon lit. But who are they? And who are they signaling? I turn back forward to see, and now I'm shooting down the green slopes, watching that strange light loom higher and larger as I go. Seems to be floating in some kind of gigantic dome of lighter amber mist that must fill a valley. Starting to look more like a giant lamp and not a sunrise. All right. I guess I'd ask, why 42? Suddenly the jungle comes to an end. I shoot out over a flat clear cut full of muddy ash and pale phosphorescent mosses that glow in auroral colors. And then I come to a stop. I've got to run, Tom. Have fun. We'll catch up later. What? And now I'm squinting around in the desolate mists, trying to figure out what's going on out here. The voice is gone, and in that mournful hopper song I'm catching some creepy vibes. Oh, then I spot something creeping along. Hello. Sliding around a clump of young fern and bright orange mushroom cups, keeping out of some thick mud. It's going slow and quiet like it's sneaking. Starting to make out a low shape. Some kind of giant bug? Ugh, I hope not. I'm not particularly fond of bugs, dear reader. Now I see a dark rust-brown shell. Yeah, it's a bug. Like a weird flea. It stops. It's got a pointed face out of a nightmare, poking out from under a hooded shell. Kind of looks like a cow skull with bug eyes, covered in moss and twigs like it's trying to camouflage itself. Well, look at that. It's got a mossy bow and arrows. It's not a bug after all. Seems like we found our hobbit. Some kind of skinny human-shaped hunter wearing a bug suit. It listens for a while and then starts off again, headed for the light. I'm following. Not by any of my doing, mind you. Still being dragged along at the leisure of my invisible taxi driver. And now I'm looking at that bug guy again. Now, he might be one of those skinny cliff dwellers, but if so, it's buried under all the crap he's covered in. Don't get me wrong, he isn't wearing much once you look past the shell he's got strapped on his back. Just mud, tattoos, and a weird leather banana hammock with lots of pouches around his skinny waist. He's got maybe a wooden bottle clutched up to his chest. I see it through some matted dregs of ropey hair that dangle from the creepy bug mask. And there's some strange, raspy muttering. He keeps glancing off to the right, making nervous motions. When I look that way, I don't see anything. And now it pulls a rag out of that bottle, starts drizzling some kind of black goop out over the ground. He gives it a tap, then stuffs it back up and pauses to listen another few minutes before creeping off again. What are you up to, buddy? Suddenly I hear a whoosh, and a big bright orange blot flares up in the mist back behind, right where this guy kept looking. Another beacon fire. I glance back to this hunter and hear a faint, raspy chuckle coming out of the mask. And then comes another one of those weird hypnagogic jolts. And suddenly I get this rush of adrenaline, like a sharp tang. Oh, it's so weird. It's like I can feel what this guy is feeling, like a breeze you can taste. He's stringing that bow, and he can just hear the sounds of trees breaking back the way I came, up the jungle slopes. And he yanks a long arrow out. Has to skip his grip down the shaft to get it free since it's about 3/4 as long as he is tall, and it's got a broad flint tip, kind of like a splitting wedge. And now he's going quick. There's some unusual sounding bells up ahead, higher pitched than a church bell, with a low, sorrowful rumbling that reverberates. I hear a few more of them now, like the alarm spreading. The mists are a lot brighter in front of me. That light in the sky is getting close. And then comes another blast of that trumpeting whale song, rolling across the clear cuts. The hopper song goes quiet, along with everything else. Just the bells and the sound of hell coming down those slopes. I can't see a thing in this mist. It's a little unnerving. The hunter has the right idea, though. Instead of looking around like an idiot, he's watching oily ripples dance across a small puddle in the mud. Apparently, his guests are arriving slightly early, because he sure looks highly motivated to get moving. I'd probably be screaming and running for my life, but this guy stays low and quiet, hauling the cord of his bow at every shadow. You can literally see the ground shaking now. The bells sound frantic. He must want to run, but he's smart and he knows better. He's making for a long, low shape on the horizon. A jagged wall, made out of logs, maybe. It's just starting to poke through the mist. And then suddenly the hunter stands up straight and looses an arrow into something low and dark, scurrying from the underbrush. There's a sharp crack, like it hit a hard shell, and I see a gleam of metallic greens and purples. The hell is that? It's starting to flop and screech. Then another crack as a second shaft sticks into it. It's a bug, like a cockroach the size of a damn dog, and it's screeching like bloody murder. So much for sneaking. The hunter runs for it. And what a run! He's taking these long, bounding strides, shouldering his bow and yanking a long arrow out to hold like a spear as he goes. It's like watching a foot race on Mars. Wonder if this place has got less gravity or something. And there's something new about that light way up in the sky. The same way you can see the pale disk of the sun on a foggy morning, I notice an arc pulling and dancing against a thin, rod-like shadow. Then comes the sound of wooden engines, and blots of orange begin climbing in the sky. Flaming pots go roaring and snapping over the top of us, and burst out further in the clear cuts. That hunter is laughing with this raspy hiss. Whatever it is, it's enjoying itself. Then something dark and heavy lands off to our left, skids and pivots, and that wipes the grin off its face, I bet. The hunter freezes, not moving a muscle. The silhouette of another giant bug, maybe 50 yards away. It's glinting like topaz in the light. And then whatever was chasing it lands. There's a grating hiss like a record playing backwards as they start tearing at each other. The hunter stays still as stone. And then the topaz one springs off into the mist and the other leaps after. Whew! He pulls himself together and slinks off again. That was lucky. And now he's making for a raised stretch of glittering road. Few long bounding strides and he's on it, making good speed over colorful gravel trampled into deep wagon ruts. Then I start to take off, rising up in the air and picking up speed. Already leaving him behind, headed for that wall up ahead. I can see figures poking through the sharpened logs under steep metallic purple roofs. And there's some kind of shielding on the wall too. It gleams like purple metal like the roofs do. Well, it's giant bug shells. Jesus. How big do these things get? I see the silhouette of watchtowers running along the length in both directions, dark against a brighter backdrop of the amber mist up ahead. And then I hear a sharp note from a whistle, and I glance back to see that hunter coming down the road with his spear raised in both hands, blowing a note to whomever's up on the wall. He's not the only one. These aliens are coming in from all over. Everyone's gathered around a narrow timber gate, but I'm already up higher than the wall, losing track of the hunter in the crowd. I can see the ground is pounding even from here. That behemoth charging down into the valley didn't seem to be having much trouble with trees, so I don't know what good this wall is supposed to do. And then a voice that could almost be human is shouting somewhere down the wall. Kine! Kine! I hear the others are shouting that same thing up and down the ramparts. Dark shapes are starting to zip around in the mist. Kine. That must be what they call these giant bugs. Someone blows a conch horn. They've spotted something big. The figures are pointing out into the wastelands, crying out, Solarid, Solarid. You can hear more than fear. There's reverence in their voices. I can just make out a big misty shadow, flickering with orange and gleaming gold. It's rising and falling like it's charging, and I can see a big blurry star-shaped blot of bright gold. Burning pots are bursting around it, but the thing just charges through them. A shower of rock knocks it aside, but that just pisses it off. As the mists swallow it, it looks like it's rearing up. Good luck, pasty hobbits. I turn around, and now the mists are thin and wild, wind-blown. It's like being in a sandstorm without the sand. I see shadows of some fenced camps, maybe. Clusters of shiny bug-shell huts, too. And there's figures running every which way, and I see the glint off spears and helmets. Must be more soldiers. Now there's a crowded dock up ahead with all kinds of colorful-looking characters running around. There's some long, flat canoes whose prows are shaped like moths or butterfly heads. Soldiers are piling out while refugees are piling in. And then I shoot past the docks and out over an oily, ring-shaped canal. Then the turbulent veil parts like a curtain. And I see what's hidden in all this mist. Chapter 1, Part 3, Haven of Iana. That light I've been chasing. It's burning like a welding torch up near the center of the sky. Almost too bright to look at, but the warm gold hue softens the glare. The mist is pushed back away from it, making the sky look like some kind of big willow tree made out of auroral ribbons of light. Up at the apex, it all swirls together, turning from green to gold and then funneling down like a sink drain so that it looks like a calm tornado, lazily churning in the center of this place. Oh, and what a place. Is this magic or technology? I don't know. But what I see in the middle, that looks like technology. It's some kind of titanic skyscraper. Looks like the blade on a broadhead hunting arrow. About 1.5 miles tall with 2 big crystal balls. One at the very top, clutched between the tips of the 4 blades, and a bigger one sticking half into a cone-shaped hill way down below at the base. The arrow shaft glows with an inner light, like a dim amber glass light bar. 4 evenly spaced amber bridges covered with the silver flanges extrude from that bigger half-buried sphere at the base, and straddle the hill like rounded legs on a lamppost. This tower is like a giant arc lamp. It's not as bright as the sun, but when it touches the rooftops of the alien city below, wow. The whole place sparkles and gleams. It's like a treasure hoard of some titan piled up against the feet of his lamp. So weird. The city's clearly primitive, made out of bamboo and bug shells. And it's surrounding that? I'm hundreds of feet up, looking down on 2 wide canals that gleam gold. One thing is certain, these kine are large and come in a breathtaking assortment of vibrant colors. And whomever or whatever these hobbits are, they're fond of building and decorating with their shells. This place is incredible. And then the air is cut with that thunderous trumpeting, and a heavy impact echoes from the walls. I turn back to look, but I can't see anything past the turbulent veil of mist that separates this sanctuary from the purple outside. Splintering timbers and screaming paint the picture just fine, and a heavy impact echoes from the walls. And then this horn booms out. Kind of like that foghorn back in the lamp. It's echoing across the peaks, and now I hear the sound of women singing beneath a triumphant masculine voice. I squint up into the blaze of the arc lamp where it's coming from and spot something dark falling out of the sky. It's making a sound like burning plastic and smoke trailing after. And then I catch a glint of silver up past it. Something's dropping from the tower. Well, several somethings. I see a line of them, gleaming figures plummeting toward the city like skydivers. And then a white beam flashes between one of them and something. Whatever it was, it's another black speck spiraling toward the city on fire now. One by one, they curve for the mists, tearing over the city toward the battle. Cheers and whistles are coming out of the narrow streets as these aliens spot their colorful champions. And as they flash past, I see metal wings with straight amber gold feathers. They got lances or maybe rifles, I can't tell. But one after another, they vanish through the veil. And then the mists light up. Oh, I wish I was still back there. What were those things? They look more like mechs or robots than people wearing armor. I can hear voices cheering and rising in a war chant when they get there and start dishing it out. But then I notice how quick the city's sliding past and I spin around. The hilltop is looming large right in front of me, just under the giant dome of the tower's base. I guess this is where all the important aliens live. There's beautiful buildings that are carved right into the stone of the hillside, like an Incan mountain village. But the way they make use of those kine shells to reflect the arc lamp's gold light is incredible. The whole hill is lit up like a prism. And now I'm drifting down onto a wide path, slick with mist that skirts the highest terrace of the hill, above the mansions. On the inside of the path, there's vibrant ferns that coil over the top of me as I pass by. These things are huge. And there's pools of light coming off a variety of glowing fungus that paint the slick cobbles in auroral colors. A lot of wrinkly orange mushroom cups, too. These ones aren't so pretty and they don't glow, but they're everywhere. It must be a local favorite. With all that crazy going on at the wall, I feared there'd be crowds of hobbits out here, but no luck. Where is everyone? I really want a good close look at one of these things. See if they're the same as that one in the tube. Ah, now I hear something. Sounds like a crowd jeering further around the terrace. And it looks like that's where I'm headed anyway. I follow the sound until one of the tower's 4 giant legs arcs hundreds of feet over the path ahead. There's a wall of piled cut stone running under it, a fence to divide the hill like a wedge. And just ahead, a narrow gate leads through, and that's where the ruckus is coming from. There's a small crowd of aliens jeering at other aliens in orange bug suits, trimmed up like body armor. There's some long banners hanging behind them, green on top slashed with gold and a misshapen sun at the center. Same one I see all over the place. I think it's supposed to represent the arc lamp. A pair of older-looking aliens is pushing through the crowd. Maybe scribes or some kind of priest class. They look more upset with these green protesters than the battle out at the walls. Everyone out here's got pretty elaborate wraps, usually with generous proportions of kine shell bling. These people really like to go all in on the jewelry and headdresses. It's like Brazil stepped into mutagen. Anyway, the shorter one looks more gray, and he's not the prettiest fellow. He's got some scrolls clutched to his pot belly, and he looks terrified. His buddy's a lot taller, with chiseled, handsome features, and he's shaking his fist hotly at the crowd. Teal chips are bouncing in his wagging forked beard. These guys look amazing. Whoa, now that they're close, I get a good look at those crazy eyes. Both got jet black orbs with thin irises like rings of vivid color. Short ones are brown, but the other guys are a vibrant turquoise. They got the same rubbery skin as that lady in the tube had. I wouldn't say they look the same, but they're close. As they pass, I'd love to ask them to take me to their leader, but they can't see me and I can't talk. I look from them to that tower up there, looming like a space elevator into the golden arc lamp. There's some strange things afoot here. Clearly, these dudes did not build that thing. Maybe they got some robot overlords living up there. Then again, I start noticing there's dozens of elaborate wooden structures clinging randomly to the tower. Especially along the right side, out at the edges of the arrow blades. Those 4 silver flanges that look like apartment towers. Either the hobbits are running things here, or else their robot overlords don't mind them building all over their space tower. Oh, now I get it. This thing's been damaged. Looks like it got peppered from below with giant buckshot, and they're building their huts all over the ugly bits. Then a sharp, guttural voice booms out from behind, and I look back to see those 2 older aliens scurry off to the side as a troop of beautiful spearmen come marching down the path, headed for the gate. Those unruly aliens in green are making way, but with sullen looks. These guys wear bug suits too, but it's expert work. Rich marbled amber and cream opal plates, over a purple padded vest. Mantles of chitin scales cover their shoulders, and wide skirts of gold fabric are buckled around their waists. They got round shields with that warped golden star on them, and carry forked spears made out of bronze, I think. The officer up front is shouting with that gravelly commander's voice, clearing the way. There's a gold disc on the forehead of his helmet, and a wide crest of amethyst blades sweeping out from it. Grim-looking fellow, with a beard forked in the Arcadian style, plated in lavender and gold chips. And once they march past, I start following. They're pushing through the gate, and we pass under the tower's giant arching leg into a beautiful section of the city, hung with gold banners marked with that star. Up ahead, running up the center of the terraces, a long stone staircase that travels from a wide square at the bottom, where I see a couple of step pyramids, all the way up to the base of the tower. As the troop mounts the stairs, I find myself drifting past the last few rows and coming awkwardly close to one of them in particular. Naturally, my attention snaps to him. I almost laugh. This guy is enormous. He's probably a good head and shoulders taller than everyone else here, but he's hunched over like an ape, trying not to stick out. His armor barely fits, and small, widespread eyes are darting back and forth in the shadow of his visor. The ones around must notice him, but no one's giving him away. Then there's a spike of hypnagogic sound, and for a second, I get this very strong dislike of the people around me. And then a loud, distorted voice rings in my head. I hear words I don't understand, but when they come a second time, somehow they just make sense.
Focus. Focus.
It's like a mantra. He knows he'll get a twist a few stinking skein before he's done. But in the meantime...
Focus. Focus.